Hello, I'm David Maloney. I'm the head of research at the Information Security Forum. With me today is Miles Clement, one of our principal research analysts, and we're here to talk to you about a recent report called You Could Be Next. Miles, what's the background to this report?
Well, this report, the You Could Be Next report, is about learning from incidents and how organisations can learn from incidents and what actually happened during the course of the incident.
And when we set out to do this report, we thought we would ask a bunch of organizations about incidents they'd incurred and see if there were common themes. But that's not what ended up happening. We learned something much more interesting.
Yes, what we actually learned was that organisations were maybe spending money in the wrong place following incidents and actually taking on risks that they shouldn't be taking on.
Those are two really bad things. Nobody wants to have a risk that they don't know about or they don't want. And nobody in this climate should be spending money they shouldn't be spending. So how is it possible that this is happening?
Well, what we found was that organisations were really good at their incident management processes, but they didn't typically do the post-incident review at the end to work out what actually went wrong.
Okay. So they didn't learn from the incident?
They didn't learn from the incident, no. And there were sort of two different things that they didn't learn. One of which was the true impact of the incident. Because by taking a view of the incident at the end of the incident management process, you've only got a very small idea of what the true cost is.
Right.
If you do a more detailed impact assessment and you look at the longer term costs, actually quite often you find the costs are considerably larger than you first thought.
So how does that fit in with risk management overall?
Well, what that means is that when you do a risk assessment, the impact is obviously key to that risk assessment. So if you undervalue the impact, you're going to take on a risk that you wouldn't otherwise take on.
And the same is true for the consequences?
Same is true for the consequences.
Okay, so what we're really saying is that as good as organizations are at doing information risk management, there are some fundamental flaws in that process that can only be answered by understanding what happened after an incident has taken place.
Exactly, and it's not just the impact assessment that's important, it's also important to understand the reasons behind the incident. And what we found was that organisations were often treating symptoms of the incident rather than actually going back to the root cause. So they needed good methodologies and ways of actually going back to look at the root cause to actually identify areas where they needed to address and spend money more effectively.
So I don't need to ask whether the report helps organizations do a post-incident review in depth to learn these key things that are missing, because obviously it does.
Yeah, and in fact one of the things we did was to try and identify the incidents they really should investigate and those they shouldn't.
Well, that's my next question. In today's climate, it would be nice if everybody had unlimited time and money and could investigate every incident at depth. That's not realistic. So what do we do?
Well, I mean, one of the things we did in the methodology we created here was to actually create a process that said these are thresholds that you should put in place for when you should do incident management, post-incident review, and these are ones when you shouldn't do it.
So it's a short and sharp methodology to help you figure out when it's worth it to your organization to spend the time and money, because the learnings will be worth a lot more, and when it's not.
Exactly, yeah. And wanted a focused approach for this.
Great, thank you. The You Could Be Next report is available to ISF members for download from isflive.org. That's isflive.org. And anybody watching this video who isn't, if your organization's an ISF member, you can register on the website. For people who are not members of the ISF, the report is available for purchase at securityforum.org. That's securityforum.org. Thank you for watching.